Hello everyone, I am Nick Harrison with Rocky River Woodworks, and today I'm going to be making this drill press table. So the first thing that I need to do is get some measurements of the table and kind of figure out what size table I'm going to make. I also need to see how far above the surface of the table the handle is, because I'm going to need to notch out that piece. So I begin ripping down some 3/4 inch birch plywood. I'm going to be using two pieces and laminating those together. So I rip them down to length and then cross cut them to width. After I get that done, I find the center point and I draw in about 1.5 inches based on the measurement I took of my drill press post or the shaft. And then I'm going to create an arch opening in that plywood. And I do that over at the spindle sander, just barely sneaking up on the line. After I have one piece of plywood done, I lay it flush on top of the other piece and I trace out that half circle. And then begin cutting out that as well. On the bottom piece, I will also need to mark that notch out area, so I get that marked and laid out and then head over to the bandsaw and cut out that area. Again, this will allow room for the handle to maneuver without hitting the wood table. After that's done, I just kind of put it in place and test to make sure that it is going to work like it should, and it does. So then I use the top piece and I get it where I want it and get it situated, and then I just barely drill the tip of the bit into the wood just to mark that location. Based on that, I'm going to cut out a 4 inch by 4 inch square with that point being center in the top piece of wood. This will allow for a sacrificial insert that I can then replace as time goes on. I then drill a couple starter holes within that square and use my jigsaw to cut out the 4 inch by 4 inch opening in the top piece of wood. Take your time with this and make sure that all the edges are straight and accurate so that your insert pieces will fit correctly. After that's done, I begin the glue up. I just apply a liberal amount of glue on the backer piece, spread it out, and then go to place the top piece on there. And it was about this point right here when I realized I put glue on the wrong dang piece. So I do the best I can to try to salvage as much glue as I can, since there is quite a lot used here, and I will apply it to the bottom of the top piece. That way I don't have any glue in that inside of that 4 inch opening. So I apply the glue, spread it out, and we will keep moving with the project. Flip the top piece over, make sure it is flush to the bottom piece, and get it in place. And then I flip the entire project over and put 2 screws just to hold it in place. I'm not screwing this together. I'm just putting a screw in each corner towards the edge just to hold it in place so that when I put clamps on, it does not have the tendency to move around. I then start clamping up the project. While the glue dries, I cut down another sheet of plywood to make the 4 inch by 4 inch sacrificial insert plate. I rip it down on the table saw and cross cut it on the miter saw. After the glue has dried, I remove all of the clamps and I begin laying out some measurements of 3/4 inch solid oak to do almost like an edge banding around the outside. I lay out the measurements I need, mark the ends of it, as well as marking the direction of the miter, and then use my table saw with the miter gauge to make these cuts. I get one done, trace it out on the other, and repeat the process. After that's complete, I flip the project over after I get everything laid out and situated where I want it, because I want the edge banding to be flush to the top of the table, not the bottom. So I flip it over and brad nail all of the edge banding in place. The next thing I do is swap out my flush trim bit on my router table for a 3/4 inch groove cutting bit, and I set the height of it to be the height of my T-track. I then find where I want the T-track to be as far as the width, how far in from the sides I would like it to be, and then how far into the board from front to back I want it to be. Set up my fence, get everything set in place according to those measurements, as well as this stop block, so that I know when to stop cutting that groove. I then take my time here so you don't burn the wood or burn up your bit, and slowly cut the groove. I repeat the process on the opposite side. I flip the table around, put the stop block back in place, and begin doing the same process for the other groove. This will allow me to have a T-track on each side of my drill press tabletop for the fence to go in. I then just do a test fit to make sure that my T-track does fit, and it fits snug just like I like it. Put the T-track in place, note the dimensions that I need here, and then head over to the miter saw. As long as you go slow and have your miter saw at full speed, they should cut this aluminum T-tracks without problems. After cutting the T-track to length, I put it in place, make sure it is flush one last time, and use the small flathead screws to secure it to the drill press table. After I insert the 4" by 4" sacrificial piece, I get a piece of birch plywood to start making the fence. I note the width of it, and then I use my table saw to rip it down to about 3½ inches. After that's done, I put them in an L formation. I drill pilot holes, countersink, and screws. The countersink is very important so that everything glides smoothly. After that's done, I'm just making some support blocks here that will drill through the bottom and the front face just to keep everything square. I assemble those blocks in place with the same process using pilot holes, countersunk, and drill them home. Now that my fence is assembled, I note the position of where I will need to drill out for my T-track bolts to penetrate through the fence. I get that done and drill the holes. After the holes are drilled, I get my T-track bolts, put them in place, put the fence on, and then screw on the knobs. Next, I put the fence over on the drill press, I get it where it's supposed to be, and I trace through the bottom slits of the current metal drill press table onto my wooden table. Just a note where I will need to drill these holes, which will accept the threaded inserts. After I drill the holes, I begin installing the brass threaded inserts. This is a little difficult because I don't quite have a flathead screwdriver big enough for this, but I was able to make it work. After the threaded inserts are installed, I head back over to the drill press one more time, put the table in place, and thread a 1/4 inch hex head bolt through the bottom of the current fence into my new table. Bottom of the current table. And then here I just use a bit driver to send them home, give everything a quick sanding, and I'm done. All right, so I think that sums up this video. It's kind of plain and simple. It's kind of down and dirty. It's the way I like to do projects. As you've seen in my other videos, I'm not necessarily going for perfect appearance, especially with shop furniture. So it's done. I've sanded it down where it's smooth. The fence glides back and forth smoothly and also locks in place when I need it to. This insert plate, I think that was a pretty good idea just because then I'm not tearing up the table and I can just swap this insert plate out as it gets worn, or even just flip it over and keep using it like that. So for now, this is gonna do. I'm gonna roll with it for now. I don't use the drill press quite as much as I probably should, just because I have a bad habit of using hand drills to drill holes, but now that I have this, it might encourage me to use it some more, so we will see.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel on YouTube. You can also find me online at www.rockyriverwoodworks.com. I post all my projects, all my videos on my website. I also have a ton of free plans and templates that you can download, so be sure to check that out. And then you can also find me on social media, Instagram at RockyRiverWW. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching.